In many ways, pulse rifles have been the most reliable and probably the most versatile primary weapons inside of Destiny's PvP for a good while. Since the start of Year 2, we've seen slight shifts in the popularity of certain archetypes, as well as some astonishingly good weapons and roles becoming available. Of course, with Rise of Iron, a number of absolute gems have entered the fray, so how do the best of the Year 2 and Year 3 pulse rifles stack up? Well, my name is XHOUNDISHx, and in this video, let's take a look at the best PvP pulse rifles in Destiny. So back in Year 1, both the medium and low rate of fire, or the higher impact pulse rifles, were really where it was at for PvP. This has kind of gone head over heels now though, and both the 77 and 73 rate of fire, or the two fastest firing archetypes in the game, are currently the strong performers in the Crucible. We'll go over those soon, but to mention the slightly higher impact family of pulse rifles like Nerwan's Mercy, the revamped Hopscotch Pilgrim and Red Death archetype as many call it, these are still okay in PvP. We're talking about 66 rate of fire and 14 impact types of pulse rifle. They do reasonably good damage, generally come with great stability and range, as well as handling pretty easily since they fire a little slower. The problem with these weapons is they take a little too long to do their damage now, and cause less flinch because fewer rounds are hitting the targets. They all around find themselves kind of outclassed by the faster firing archetypes. You can absolutely do well with this archetype, but you're going to lose out to the other weapons that I'll talk about in this list, so it's worth having that said. You won't find this family of pulse rifles higher up in this list, but that doesn't mean they're unusable. We're just here to talk about the best of the best. So now let's address the 73 rate of fire and 7 impact archetype of pulse rifle. Firstly in this list, Blind Perdition. This is the new Trials of Osiris pulse rifle which came in Rise of Iron, and this thing is really pretty good. It comes with fixed bonuses of small bore or hand-laid stock, high caliber rounds which is brutally good on pulse rifles, hand-loaded, counterbalance or outlaw. Not to mention that Snapshot is built into the adept version of this weapon if you get it from the Lighthouse. You've got some really insane possibilities for stability firstly, which you can max out at 100 if you want, and you have a range potential of 59 points, which is pretty fantastic. Combined with barrel options on the weapon, you can fine-tune stability and range even more, so stats and perk-wise, this thing is one of the strongest weapons in the game for the Crucible. Another pro is the fantastic and really ornate weapon sight on this thing. The aperture and symmetry is really nice, and the clean dot in the center really help target acquisition on this weapon. I already mentioned this, but Snapshot means less animation time while aiming, so you can acquisite targets even faster and get the drop on them in a gunfight, and as well as this, high caliber rounds is just a fantastic perk on this kind of pulse rifle. High caliber rounds of course increases the flinch value of the weapon, which affects your target's ability to aim quite a lot, as well as their character movement while you're engaging. So all around, you can just get the drop on so many gunfights and respond to incoming damage quickly as well, often able to beat out someone who engages you first. As for the cons, a big one for this weapon is that it only holds 21 rounds in the magazine. Compared to a Suros PDX-45, which is in the same archetype, this can hold 27 at base, so that's 2 less bursts available, which will absolutely bite you in the ass from time to time. Another issue is that the rolls are fixed, so you can't grind for different properties on the weapon, but on the whole, the roll is pretty damn good, and it's an absolute top tier PvP pulse rifle. In the same archetype we have the Suros PDX-45, and this one comes in Arms Day packages and is equally as fearsome for PvP purposes. So since we know this family of weapons destroys in the Crucible, let's ask the question, what's different between Blind Perdition and this pulse rifle? Firstly, in the stats, Suros PDX wins out slightly on aim assist, range and reload speed. Another pro is that Suros PDX-45 has 6 more rounds in the mag as standard, which is of course 2 more bursts as I just mentioned. This is a super high performance PvP pulse rifle, and with the right bonuses is a top tier option, and since it's an Arms Day weapon you can get varying rolls on this thing, so there's plenty of variety, although it may take you a while to get a god roll. The handling is all around fantastic, and just like Blind Perdition, you can get regular 3 burst kills if you hit your shots. If you play a lot of PvP, you absolutely should have a Suros PDX-45, so look out for Arms Day orders if you don't. Other weapons worth mentioning here are the Hawksaw firstly, which is basically a branded version of the PDX-45, although I'm not sure you can actually get these right now, and also the B29 Party Favor from the Crucible vendor, which can be pretty solid with the right roll. Moving on though, let's talk about the fastest firing pulse rifles in the 77 rate of fire and 4 impact family. With the right bonuses and characteristics, these are probably the absolute best pulse rifles in the game right now. I'm talking about the Grasp of Malok and the Clever Dragon types of pulse rifle. Firstly, Grasp of Malok. This is a strike specific weapon for the will of Crota or Omnigul Strike, and this thing caused quite a stir when it became very farmable in the Nightfall a few months back. With this weapon you can hit up to 66 range, which is pretty good for the archetype, and 92 stability, so that's really solid. A big pro for this weapon is that you have 30 rounds in the magazine as standard, which is great for helping you keep in those gunfights. Another standout thing about Grasp of Malok and this family of pulse rifles in general is the relatively awesome damage that you get versus the high rate of fire. You won't necessarily get super regular 3 burst kills or anything like that, but 4 bursts is enough to competently get kills, and in the meantime, the amount of rounds hitting the target really mean that the flinch you put on someone during a gunfight helps you come out on top more regularly. With Grasp of Malok, the perks of course roll randomly, and this is a pretty big con for this weapon because there's a lot of fairly useless stuff which can roll when you get it dropped, and this means that getting a good or even god roll, particularly these days, is very difficult to do. With the right combination of stability and range though, this is a monstrously good primary weapon. Great at range because it's precise and has those decent range stats intrinsically, but also it performs very well up close because you can keep players at bay with the great damage and flinch. Finally, the Clever Dragon pulse rifle, of course in the same family as Grasp of Malok and possibly the best PvP pulse rifle period. So Clever Dragon is the new Iron Banner pulse rifle in Rise of Iron, and a near god roll of this thing went for sale recently as well, which certainly helps it rank in this list. We know it's good, so how does it do versus Grasp of Malok? Well, a big benefit for Clever Dragon is that the pool of bonuses is way smaller than that of the Grasp of Malok, and it features plenty of PvP centric and popular bonuses, so you'll get a pretty good one fairly easily. On top of this, the main weapon sight is the Iron Red Dot, which is really ideal for PvP, offering clear target acquisition with a nice small dot sight, which just feels great to use. You have a couple of points less range than the Grasp of Malok, but a tiny bit more stability, so the stats are pretty close in general. Clever Dragon does have 27 rounds in the mag, which is 3 less than Grasp has, which isn't bad, so they're on a pretty even playing field apart from the fact that Clever Dragon itself, as well as god rolls, are far easier to obtain. High caliber rounds is pretty easy to get on a Clever Dragon, which is absolutely a big deal. Having this many rounds hit a target alongside high caliber rounds, it absolutely makes Clever Dragon one of the hardest primary weapons to counter in the entire game. You'll do really well anywhere outside of extreme long ranges, but in that mid-range it's an absolute powerhouse. Frankly, getting hit by either of these last 2 pulse rifles is pretty obnoxious. If you hit your shots with Clever Dragon, you're going to absolutely dominate. It's simply a fantastic weapon, and for me Clever Dragon kind of feels like the most powerful primary weapon in PvP right now. Arguably a good shot with IS Luna or something could win out, but you just can't match the reliability and versatility that Clever Dragon or most of the top tier pulses I've spoken about in this video for that matter. An honourable mention for this archetype would be the Waltz from the Future War Call. It basically does what these weapons do, but you'd need a pretty damn good roll if you were trying to compete with the other weapons in this list, and that is about it, guys. The 2 key archetypes and 4 major player weapons that we've looked at pretty much comprise the A-team of PvP pulse rifles. Let me know your favourites or any awesome rolls that you have down in the comments below though. If you have enjoyed this video, show your support by hitting that like button down below, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can also hit that subscribe button to see a lot more Destiny coverage. But for now, thanks for watching guys, and you have a great day.